welcome to Fauchs Cast, F-A-U-C-H-S. We bring you all the Fauchs you want. I'm Clint Crishim, and I'm here with a very special guest today. I'm here with the one, the only Michael Backstrom-Bottom. Michael, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me, Clint.
Awesome, of course. I'm genuinely excited to have you here today. I think I've been trying to get you on here for 15 years. I think you were the first guest I've ever tried to get on this podcast. I don't know if you have been listening to this, but we've been around.
I had no idea. I'm not. If I'm being honest, I don't consume much in the podcast realm. I'm so kind of focused on my own projects and my own art all the time that I don't have a whole lot of time for listening to the interviews. But I admire it. My agent tells me you're very good at what you do.
Oh, thank you. That's very interesting.
I should
to
say
me.
ex-agent.
Ex-agent.
We don't work together anymore.
The agent, Nikki, that I talked to to bring you on to here. Did something just happen yesterday? What?
We've parted ways as of yesterday. Yes.
Oh, okay. Is that something you'd like to talk about?
I didn't want to do this, but once you'd signed off on it, I felt an obligation of sorts. But I didn't want something like this happening again, so I had to let Nikki go.
Wow. Well, thank you for being here, and
well, thank you for having me.
Let's talk about your projects, your art. I'm really fascinated by your story, Michael. I would imagine everybody knows who you are, but you're obviously a director, movie director. Most famously for the film Never Close the Closet Door, that's what I really do want to get into. But first, wanted to chat a little bit about your backstory, if that's okay. I tried looking up a lot of information about you. However, I had to get some, I'll say, unusual sources. I talked to one friend, I think you had in elementary school. Jacob, I believe was his name, but he had told me that you used to carry around a...
Jacob J or Jacob S? Please tell me you didn't talk to Jacob S.
He was actually intrigued by you. He thought it was really interesting that in the 5th grade, you started just bringing a cassette recorder to school and recording all of your conversations. I'm curious, where are those cassette tapes? Is that something that you still have?
No, I lost those in the fire.
The fire?
I burned all my stuff. In freshman year of college, I went to Burning Man, and I brought a duffel bag full of stuff, and I threw it at the Burning Man, and that's what happened to the tapes.
Interesting. What made you decide to start bringing a cassette recorder to school and recording children?
Well, I've always been fascinated with recording children. A fascination that exists still to this day. I mean, they don't let me do it quite as much since the incident, but there's always a loophole, so I still find ways. Cassette recordings. Of course. I'm not some sort of pervert. I'm just realizing how that sounded.
Just cassette, no video?
No.
Okay.
No, I save... Well, I mean, I guess the movie that I'm most known for does involve videotaping a child a lot, but it's a child actor in a movie set up. Fair. By, according to the regulations.
Of course, I'm sure there's paperwork involved. Would not accuse you of otherwise.
No. He went to school on set and all the, we did all the things they make you do when you're working with children.
Well, I'm glad to hear. It
would be a lot easier to make a movie if you could have the kid work 16 hours a day, but they haven't let you do that since the late 70s.
That's okay. We are very pro-child here on Fauchs. We stress that every single episode. Pro-children, I always say. We actually donate 50% of our proceeds to children with cancer to beat it.
Is that the name of the charity?
It's the name of the charity, Children with
Cancer to Beat It. It seems a little wordy is all.
That is one of the main sponsors of the podcast. We actually give them the money, but they give us more. It's really cool.
Well, that's a fascinating little workaround.
Yeah, it's really quite amazing.
Actually, I'd love to talk to you after the interview. I'd love to talk to you more about how you can both receive donations and give donations to this.
Yeah.
I've had trouble. Funding has always been one of the parts of filmmaking that I struggle with. Both getting the funds and then also knowing what to do with them has always been one of the challenges for me as a producer and director.
Yeah, I'm sure doing both jobs is difficult. Being a producer and a director, you have both control and are dispersing the monetary funds, correct?
Right. It's hard. It's hard when you're an artist and you're getting notes from the production team who maybe aren't creative. It's even harder when those notes are coming from yourself. When you are the producer and you're giving yourself these bullshit notes about the direction the film should take. How do you reckon with that?
Yeah.
When you're getting the notes from yourself.
Let's talk a little bit about the filmmaking process. So the movie that you're most known for, Never Close the Closet Door, horror film. Am I correct?
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay.
A horror film.
And I'm asking because I have not been able to track down anyone that has seen this. As I understand, it has yet to be released to the general public, correct?
The only people who have seen it are myself and the editor, who happens to be myself.
How many people were involved in the process of making this movie?
Just me and the kid. I'm exaggerating, of course, but I did act in it as well. I don't want to say too much about the part I played because I fear it will give away some of the plot.
Okay.
But I acted in it. There was the child, of course. A handful of local actors from the Tucson scene, where I began my career, Arizona, I think, and aside from a handful of crew members, that was pretty much it. So really, I'm the only member of the team that's seen it. There are a handful of executives who have seen at least portions of it that I've worked with over the years trying to get this thing released. But I don't know that any of them have other than maybe the folks at Blockbuster. I don't know that any of them have seen it front to back. There was maybe James Toomey at Blockbuster. I think he might have seen the original
Toomey
director's cut.
Yeah.
But as it currently exists, I've been making little adjustments.
That's how long is your director's cut?
Well, which one?
The most current one.
The most current one. Well, I've had to change course so many times over the years that currently it sits at around 14 minutes, but it's been as long as 3.5 hours, depending on which director's cut you're looking at.
Amazing, truly amazing to shift between a 14-minute movie and a 2.5 hour.
Mm-hmm. Well, sometimes less is more.
Yeah,
and in other cases, more is more. As is the case with the 3.5 hour cut.
I think we can all agree that more is certainly almost always more.
By the strictest definition, yes. But I've become fascinated with the idea of negative space. So I've toyed with the idea of a 3.5 hour runtime as I initially intended, but most of that is just a blank screen, and about 14 minutes in the middle is the bulk of the visuals and the audio and whatnot. But I like to let the sort of the viewer play with that 3 hours and 15 minutes of blank space.
Interesting. 'Cause I actually requested from your former agent,
Nikki,
thank you, for a copy of this movie, any cut really, and all I got was a 14-minute soundtrack.
Well, yes, that's correct. See, as I said, if you were listening, I've become fascinated with the idea of the absence of material, the sort of the black hole of it has become. I think of the piece now as less of a movie and more of a soundtrack. What I'm getting at is that, well, it's just a soundtrack now. For legal. Okay, look,
Tell me about these legal reasons.
well,
You mentioned
I'd like to say that it was purely creative. I would like to say that, but the truth is that some of it is I'm dancing around some issues. So
Could we get into these?
Well, I don't have the rights to the video footage anymore. So that led me down this path. How can I make a movie without any video footage at all? The sort of natural answer there is that the movie is what I still own the rights to, which is the score, which I wrote in an apartment, an old apartment of mine, with one synthesizer. It was a Roland Juno G, as I recall. It's just a synthesizer, a PodTrack P4, a couple of pairs of headphones, and those were some of the I think truly the most satisfying parts of the production was when it was just me alone with that synthesizer. Then, as I said, I still own the rights to that. So both creatively, it's what interests me most these days. It's the score, and then legally, it's the only thing I'm allowed to release.
I'm interested in hearing more about your perspective of the score is the movie, but you don't have the movie. Some might say you're putting on your own rose-colored glasses, if I'm making any sense. Would you say there's any truth behind that?
Well, first I'd have to understand the question. And to do that, I think I would have to ask a more maybe coherent question.
What I'm trying to get into here is how you feel about losing the rights to the movie. It seems, I would imagine, like a pretty big loss to this, lose this work of art that you had created. And at this point in time, you're left with a soundtrack, which was great, by the way. I genuinely loved the organs and the recurring theme that occurred throughout the soundtrack. It seems like the soundtrack was something that you wrote to the movie. But there is no more movie.
Well, there is a movie. The movie is the soundtrack.
The movie is the soundtrack.
I mean, look, was it disappointing at first to lose the entire visual aspect of my film? Traditionally, a visual medium, I think we can agree.
Yeah.
Of course, that was disappointing at first. But then, I began to reframe it in my brain. The artist is always evolving and always making the best, maybe not the best, but making art of whatever situation presents itself. So, I began to think, why do you have to see a movie? Why can't you hear a movie? What do blind people do with a movie? Is it ableist of me to even suggest that a movie should have visuals? Why can't a movie be just music? Is it ableist of me to even suggest that a movie should have sound? Why can't a movie be Braille? Which is something I'll look into if I lose the rights to the soundtrack. I'll consider a Braille movie. And if I lose the rights to the Braille, it might be more of a recipe than a movie. Maybe it'll be a recipe for risotto. Why can't that be a movie?
How long has it been since you lost the rights to the movie?
August 14th, 2013.
Wow. So seems like a very long time. What's that? 8 years
It's about
now?
8. It's coming up on the 8-year anniversary of the death of Blockbuster.
So the movie is gone with Blockbuster.
The movie went the way of the Blockbuster, as the old expression goes.
Can you tell me more about the backstory there? How does you've mentioned Blockbuster a few times? You've mentioned losing the rights to the movie a few times. How do those two events line up together?
Well, maybe I should. I'm not sure what sort of audience, if any, that you have, and what they know about movies, if anything, at all. And particularly the history of art house horror. So I think maybe at this juncture it's important to maybe give the history of Never Close the Closet Door.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just in case people are listening to this thinking, what the fuck is going? I apologize. I'm not sure if this is a cursing show.
You can say whatever you would like on here. Us at Fauchs, Fauchs, we have very liberal sponsors that are very pro expression.
Okay.
So you say whatever you feel comfortable saying.
All right. Well, I started making this fucking thing in 1986. That was when the original idea was conceived. Just to give a quick history, I began writing the film in 1986. The turnaround was quick because it was an independent effort. So from pen to paper until the final cut was made in the editing room, it was about 16 months total. And in early 1988, I began shopping it, looking for a production house that could help me get a theatrical release.
So you were actually going for a release in theaters?
Absolutely.
Nationwide?
Well,
what?
I don't know that at that time I had even thought that far ahead. I just wanted it to be seen.
Yeah.
I just wanted it in theaters.
As all artists should. I
just wanted the true horror fans out there to see this work that I'd put so much into. So from 1988 until about 2011, I shopped it, trying to get a theatrical release. And I don't know how much you know about the way film develops over time.
Not a whole lot.
But movies from 1988 don't look like theatrical releases by 2010. I mean, we didn't even have CGI. It was all practical effects when I made the film. So by 2010, I had to face the hard fact that it probably wasn't going to make it to theaters.
I'm sure that was very difficult for you.
It was, but it was also liberating because it allowed me to explore. I'd become obsessive about the theater thing, and so it opened up other avenues when I finally sort of let go of that dream. And in the back of my mind, I always sort of hoped that maybe it would take off. There would be some sort of cult following if I explored these other avenues. Maybe that would somehow push it into small theaters, maybe college theaters or things like that. So I never fully gave up on the theater dream necessarily, but I did start to explore these other avenues. And one that came up was Blockbuster Video.
I have very vivid memories of rolling through the aisles of Blockbuster in search of various horror films. Mm-hmm. So I'd imagine quite the exhilarating release, despite your theater dreams.
Well, I too have those memories. You know, I just wish they weren't tainted by what was to follow. basically, in 2010, I first contacted. I was put in touch through my former agent Nikki with the Blockbusters, the Blockbuster family, James Blockbuster, Maria Blockbuster,
The Blockbusters, as we know them. Yeah.
Tom and Jerry Blockbuster, their daughter Jerry, like the Spice Girl, GE.
With an I?
R-I, exactly. Tom and Jerry Blockbuster, the children.
Was there an H in Jerry? I'm thinking different Jerry. I'm thinking the Norwegian Jerry. Go ahead.
Oh, Jerry Blockbuster.
Yes.
With the umlaut over the O.
Absolutely, yes.
That's Jerry Blockbuster. Climate activist. So that was when I first touched base with 2010. It's a slow process with Blockbuster. They're not the swiftest moving company, as I think we've come to learn.
As we all remember.
I wish I could have charged them some late fees. Yeah, that's an old joke I tell. But by 2013, it was about a 3-year negotiation. We'd struck a deal for a direct to Blockbuster release. So VHS DVDs directly to the store. But they were going to promote it. There was going to be a big ribbon cutting ceremony at the flagship Blockbuster in my native Tucson.
That direct to Blockbuster release in the early that first decade of the 21st century, very popular. If your movie filled that front stand of Blockbuster, you were a hit almost instantly.
I mean, it kept Chris Tucker afloat after Rush Hour.
How many Rush Hours were there?
About 17.
I only saw the first one.
It was the best. But in fairness, 14 was pretty good too.
Tell me more about your Blockbuster release.
Hold on, I'm thinking about Rush Hour 14.
Is that the...
Hold on.
And we'll take a break right here to hear from our sponsors. What is sadder than a child with cancer? Nothing. That's why Children with Cancer to Beat It is out there. All other cancer foundations are aiming their funds on incenting adults, but Children with Cancer to Beat It is out there studying to come up with a solution, and they have a goal of beating it. And when they do, children are actually first on the list to receive the treatment. Donate your money today to Children with Cancer to Beat It. Children with Cancer to Beat It is not a certified nonprofit. And we're back. This is Clint Crishim on Fauchs, F-A-U-C-H-S. I'm here today with Michael Backstrom-Bottom, director of the never-before-seen movie, Never Close the Closet Door. Michael, welcome back. You were just telling us about the Blockbuster release that you had planned in 2010 is where we left off.
Well, 2010 was when it started, but by the time we'd inked the deal, it was 2013, and the film was set to hit stores all across the greater Tucson area.
All of Tucson.
And the greater area.
Is Tucson a large metropolitan area?
Well, compared to what? It's not New York City.
Yeah.
It's also not as big as Reno, Nevada. Fair. But it is bigger than other towns in Nevada.
So tell me more about your plan. I think 2014 you said.
2013.
2013, excuse me.
Because by so here's the thing. Just as it was... I wish we could have made it to 2014. Just as the movie was finally about to reach horror fans all over Tucson.
Famously large horror movie area, right? I think all of our favorite horror films were launched in Tucson. If I remember correctly, Texas Chainsaw...
Tucson Massacre was in Tucson. Also, Tucson of the Dead.
Absolutely. And I think indie horror film... Mixed Up at the Dry Cleaners. Just
great film.
Amazing.
Tucson Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Many people say it was Human Centipede before Human Centipede. But instead of a centipede, they turned him into a cuckoo's nest.
Interesting. Wow. I had not heard that before. That must be, floating around in the tight-knit artistic producers community or the director's
Especially in
community,
Tucson.
because you're both.
Especially in Tucson.
Yeah, fair. But anyway, a Blockbuster release 2013. I think we all know the story of Blockbuster.
Oh, also To Shaun of the Dead, which was sort of a parody of the classic. It took all the zombie tropes, it reimagined it as a comedy. Many people say it was like Shaun of the Dead, but it came out after.
That one I need to look up.
Tucson Too Furious.
That's a horror movie.
That had more to do with race cars.
And that took place entirely in Tucson?
Oh. Yes.
I'd like to hear more about your film.
Yes, let's finish
Never Close the Closet Door.
Well, let's not never close this story. Just to put a little bow on this tragic tale. Just before the release in the greater Tucson area, Blockbuster famously ceased to exist.
Of course, as we all remember.
They, for lack of a better term, went out of business. Because of the contract we had signed, Never Close the Closet Door belonged to them now. Another reason I had to let go of Nikki.
Nikki was the one that made that deal.
She was supposed to read things for me.
Okay.
And no one ever really read the contract per se.
And I don't want to get too involved here, but this was not 8-9 years ago, correct? That she would have. But
it took me a while to build up the courage to fire her.
I see.
And then also making me do this. But no one really read the finer details of the contract. So without knowing exactly what we were signing away, we signed away just about every aspect of the film, except for the score, which is the silver lining.
There you go.
I still have that beautiful synth music I recorded with a Roland Juno G in a garage with a PodTrack P4 4-track recorder. I still have.
I thought it was an apartment.
Well, it was both.
You converted a garage.
Well, in a sense, I found a garage and I made it my apartment.
Okay.
I wouldn't say I converted it. You know, there wasn't.
There was a car in there.
Well, there weren't the traditional amenities you would associate with an apartment, such as running water or a toilet. Basically, well, just water. I lived in a garage for a period of time.
How long a period of time?
From about 1988 until now.
During the entire filming of entire attempt to get the film to theatrical release.
So we lost all of the film, and I've been fighting in court with the Blockbusters.
Wow,
and their
all
attorneys.
of them.
Well, Tom and Jerry mostly. George Senior Blockbuster, long dead, of course. But I've been so from about 2014, shortly after the demise of Blockbuster in 2013, until very recently. I've been battling the Blockbusters in court to try to get back the visual aspects of the film that we sort of foolishly gave away in that contract.
Wow. And what inspired you to release the soundtrack?
Well, we lost in court.
Decision just came.
The thing about a contract is, once it's signed, very hard to break in the courts.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Legally break.
Yeah.
Very hard. It's binding.
Anything in pen. That's why I try to stick to handshakes. Even bringing you on here today, you didn't sign any. Thank you again for coming. I greatly appreciate this.
Well, thank you, Frank. So that is what led to the decision to release the music. Is partly a reimagining of what film can be.
Yeah.
A less ableist approach to film.
Absolutely.
And partly because that is all that I am legally allowed to release.
Truly amazing. You are such a creative, Michael. I want to ask you about that Blockbuster story. Even after going out of business, they had never tried to sell the rights, tried to sell it back to you. I would imagine that perhaps at some point in time you would have the ability to earn the rights back to your artwork. Is there anything that came in the way of that or inhibited that for you?
Well, myself and the Blockbusters had a bit of a falling out over the issue, obviously. And I wish I could say that I handled it better. But I did some things and I said some things that were hard to come back from. And as did they.
Okay.
And so, well, I think they would love financially to take my offer of to buy back the video footage for $49.99. I mean, I know they could use that approximately $50.
I hear $49.99. I just think of a steak dinner.
Oh, not in this economy. But I think out of spite, I think I'd have to come at them with a much better offer.
Okay.
An unreasonable $72.39. Something that I just can't. I would spend any amount of money to get this footage back if I had it. But the amount that I'm able to give, there's no way to mend these burned bridges. At least not for $44.99. Or $49.99, which was my second offer.
Have you looked into crowdfunding? Any sort of...
What's that? Is that like crowd surfing, but with money? What is that?
You could say that.
Well, also, what's crowd surfing? I just heard that somewhere.
Crowd surfing is when somebody gets very excited at a concert, very crowded concert. Imagine shoulder to shoulder, chest to chest,
Hence
butt
the
to
crowd.
butt. Yes, absolutely. Full crowd. Not just a normal crowd, a full crowd. You can almost imagine one lying across the top of everybody in that crowd.
Because it's so densely
dense. Yeah.
packed.
So imagine if everybody in that crowd was just holding up $1 and you were the person on top of that crowd and they were carrying you and you were taking $1 from each one of them to buy your movie back. That would be crowdfunding.
Can I do this?
You can do this on the internet, actually.
Well, then how will I be on top of the people?
It's a metaphor, Michael. I'd imagine. Yes, I'd imagine. I apologize. I should have been more clear about that. I thought you were there with me, but it's a metaphor. This all happens digitally.
Okay. Doesn't sound as fun.
Wouldn't that be great? I'd imagine you. Yes, I'd imagine you'd have your movie back in no time. No internet in your garage, huh?
Did Nikki tell you that? Well, that's why I haven't been able to get on my Yahoo or my Hotmail.
I don't think Yahoo is a website anymore.
It went the way of Blockbuster, as the old expression goes.
But anyway, tell me more. Tell me more about this movie. Never Close the Closet Door. I heard the soundtrack again. Great organs. Great. It from the music. It sounded a little bit, dare I say, Frankenstein-esque. I hope you take that as a compliment because that's how I mean it. It felt very new era, maybe Frankenstein back in 1960s. A fresh take, very very eerie, very very new. But I genuinely enjoyed the soundtrack, so I'm interested to learn more about the movie itself. Can you tell me a little bit about the backstory of the movie? Or again, I understand creatively the soundtrack is the movie. But when there was a visual aspect, or what do you imagine the visual aspect to be if there was one?
Well, I don't think what used to be matters anymore. What the movie is now is sound.
Okay.
And what sound is an opportunity for the listener to visualize the movie.
So how can one, with just the 14 minutes and I think 20 some odd seconds of sound, get the full experience of the quote unquote movie.
Well, doesn't hurt to do a little acid.
Ah,
But setting that aside, I think what I'd really like for the listener / viewer is to sort of, to sit in a dark room with headphones, of course. Headphones are necessary.
of course.
You don't play this movie through your phone speaker.
Okay.
It's not that kind of movie. It's not the kind of movie you listen to on your phone in a taxi cab.
It's not the kind of movie you'll watch either.
No, it's the kind of movie you listen to. Just not. It's the kind of movie you have to hear in the right soundscape to get the full scope of. But I don't. I hesitate to put too much of my influence on how the film is experienced.
Fair.
I think it'll mean different things to different people.
Yeah.
It'll look like different things to different people. Because there's nothing to look at.
Spoken like a true creative.
Yes. I just hope real horror fans get to see this movie with their own ears and make up their own minds about the sounds they're seeing.
Cancer isn't fun, but I like to hear that children with cancer to beat it is out there putting in hard work to come up with a cure for this disease. Thank you, children with cancer to beat it.
And we're back with Fauchs Cast. I'm Clint Crishim, and I'm here with Michael Backstrom-Bottom, director of the never before, ever before seen, only heard movie, Never Close the Closet Door. Michael Backstrom-Bottom, you were just telling us about how viewers should experience your movie.
It's like I always say, you have to hear it to believe it. Thank you for giving me the necessary time to recall that tagline.
Absolutely. We here at Fauchs, Fauchs, are always pro artists. All the time that you need. We have done 15-hour podcasts before with 3 hours of silence every 2 hours during the podcast. It was truly amazing. You would not believe the amount of coffee or the coffee runs that I had after that.
I tried something similar with my film, where it was 3.5 hours long, but 3 hours of that was just a black screen, and the middle section was 14 minutes of visuals. Did we talk? Did I say this already?
We did talk about this, and it truly fascinates me. I would love to see that director's cut someday. Do you have any?
It's in Blockbuster.
Do you have any hopes in the future of reclaiming the visual aspects of the movie?
Not unless Tom and Jerry forgive me for what I did to their car.
Tell me more about this. What did you do to Tom and Jerry's vehicle?
I can't get into the specifics for legal reasons,
But non-specifics.
Well, let's just say that the 2 potatoes I'll never get back.
Another mystery that we'll never see.
Put them in their tailpipe. Put potatoes in their fucking tailpipe.
Would have loved to seen what happened to that vehicle. No ill will against the Blockbusters. We all love them. I have some fond memories of the Blockbusters, but I have seen many cartoons with potatoes and tailpipes, and I am just genuinely curious. Outside of that, what's next? So you've released this score.
I will be. It's an upcoming release.
Oh, apologies.
I think.
What
day is it?
Friday.
Oh.
Welcome back. I'm Clint Crishim from Fauchs News, Fauchs, where we give you all the facts. During our last break, we have had a interesting turn of events. Michael Backstrom-Bottom realized that he was late for another engagement. Not entirely sure what, but as soon as he discovered it was Friday, he had to jump JUMP out of here. So Michael Backstrom-Bottom is no longer with us physically. He is still alive, I hope. Very interesting interview. Very interesting man. I've never experienced a movie before without visuals, but I have to say that this soundtrack has been one of the top 15 soundtracks I have heard in my life, and I have heard almost 15 soundtracks. I am genuinely impressed with this one. That was a joke, J-O-K-E joke. Great movie. Everyone check it out. Michael Backstrom-Bottom. Never close the closet door. I'm very interested to see what this man does next. It was one of the most interesting conversations that I have had on Fauchs, F-A-U-C-H-S. Thank you again to all of our sponsors. Thank you again for listening to us today. If you have made it to this point in this podcast, please make sure to subscribe, make sure to like, make sure to tell your mom, because she is the person that gave birth to you, and she is the one that is going to be the most influential on your life. So if you tell your mom, she's going to tell you back, and you are going to like this podcast even more. I swear it. And that'll do it for us here on Fauchs, Fauchs, F-A-U-C-H-S cast. Goodbye.